the transformation is of these places sustainability, innovation, and climate responsibility at the core of India's maritime development. Through the National Green Hydrogen Mission and the designation of VOC Paradip, Dindal ports are Green Hydrogen Hub in 2023. India is laying the foundation for a clean fuel economy. Across the country, over 12 million metric tons of green hydrogen-based e-fuel capacity has been announced. Our ports are evolving into center for green hydrogen production, bunkering, and export, creating jobs and driving industrial growth. With our unique geography along key global trade route, India is well placed to become a hub for green shipping corridors, connecting domestic and international market through clean energy trade. To harness this opportunity, India has launched green and digital shipping corridors with Singapore and Rotterdam in 2025. Excuse me. This partnership will help scale investment and strengthen India's position as a bridge between global trade and sustainable growth. Recently, the government approved a historic 69,725 crores US dollar 8 billion package to revitalize India's shipbuilding and maritime ecosystem. This bold step signals our intent not only to keep pace with the global transition, but to lead it. This landmark initiative approved by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji lays a strong foundation for a golden era in Bharat's maritime sector, positioning India among the world's top 5 maritime nations by 2047. As part of this effort, we also announced 19,989 crores in budgetary support for the shipbuilding development scheme between financial year 2026 and financial year 2036. This will boost domestic shipbuilding and position India as a global shipbuilding hub. On port decarbonization, we have made significant progress. The Director General of Shipping announced India's first national shore power standard in 2025. This will enable vessels to draw clean electricity while dock and reduce port site emission. Ports like Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority in Mumbai are already leading by example. Battery sweeping electric truck are replacing diesel vehicle, which is a very significant development, moving us towards zero emission logistic and last mile electrification. Under the Harit Sagar guidelines, all ports are working towards zero discharge operation, better waste management and pollution control to protect our marine ecosystem. Financial innovation is also crucial. The Sagarmala Finance Corporation Limited, now India's first maritime-focused NBFC, and the Maritime Development Fund with a 25,000 crores corpus are designed to finance this transformation. Together, this step will ensure that India's maritime growth remain sustainable, inclusive, and globally competitive. As we advance, collaboration will be key. The maritime transition cannot be achieved in silos. It demands partnership among government, industry, financiers, and technology leaders. As we gather today on Green Maritime Day, we reaffirm our collective commitment to a cleaner and more resilient maritime future. This session today on green shipping corridors, green fuel bunkering, zero emission, tracking, port pollution, and shore power go beyond discussion. They represent the beginning of coordinated action. This insight shared here will help shape the course of India's green maritime transition and contribute meaningfully to the global decarbonization journey. Let us move forward with the same spirit of cooperation and innovation that define this gathering. Today, we can ensure that the seas that connect us also unite us in purpose and in resolve to create a future where maritime trade drives both prosperity and sustainability. With these few words, I again extend my thankfulness to all of you present here today. And as you have participated in this particular great global event, India Maritime Week 2025, and I believe this is an assembly through which we'll have to create the better ecosystem for the global society. It is not that only for India, but for the rest part of the world. And one point we should always keep in our mind very strictly, with a commitment and dedication and devotion, I believe. Ecology and environment must go hand in hand with economy. Economy not at the cost of ecology and environment. Because if ecology and environment are well guarded, well protected, then creature living on this planet Earth will survive comfortably. And we are committed for that. That is why Honorable Prime Ministers, through the launching of National Hydrogen Mission, and directed all the agencies that let us adopt green transport for blue economy. Let us take adequate measures of climate action to climate change, to combat climate change. And I believe this is why we have started all this green initiative in India, in this particular ministry. And I do believe that here we have got a lot of resourceful person with experience, ability, knowledge, wisdom, and skill. I believe you can make this event very, very meaningful and futuristic. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you to the Honourable Minister for his visionary address and steadfast leadership in advancing India's green maritime journey. May I please request Mr. Sushanta Kumar Purohit, Chairman of the VOC Port, to kindly present a token of gratitude to the Honourable Minister. We will now move on to the thought leadership launches. Thank you to our honorable ministers for their valuable participation, and we will now invite them to facilitate the report launches led by the Ministry of Ports, Shipping, Waterways and Partners. May I please request Shri Vijay Kumar, Secretary of Ministry of Ports, to join us on stage. Also, Shri Sushanta Kumar Purohit, Chairman, VOC Port. Ms. Akshma Ghate from RMI, and Mr. Sovik Bhattacharya, NCEGPS, to also join us on stage for the report launches. As the JS is not here due to a PMO briefing, I invite my colleague Ankur to lead in the report presentations for today. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable ministers and all the dignitaries on the stage. Uh, we have total 5 reports which Ministry has been leading all the efforts to, ranging from the green shipping corridors to bunkering fuel, zero emission trucks, and reducing marine pollution. We have these 5 reports for the report launch. I request all the dignitaries to kindly stand on their places so that we can facilitate the report launches. The first one, which we can see, is on green shipping corridors, worked by Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways with support of RMI. The second report that we have is on the unlocking India's green potential on hydrogen exports, pathways, markets, and trade catalysts. Since Indian ports have already been working a lot on zero emission trucks, we have worked on a policy framework for zero emission trucks for the port adoption. Reducing marine pollution is also a key priority for the ministry to take care of. Hence, there is an effort that has been made on reducing marine pollution in the country. And lastly, there is a Green Port Performance Index that Ministry has worked on showcasing the efforts ports have been putting. For the presence of all the dignitaries, I would like to thank the Honorable Ministers, Secretary Sir, Chairman of USC Port, and the dignitaries on the stage. I will hand over back to Vindhya. Thank you.
Yes, we can please have a photo at the front. Thank you. A special thanks to all our dignitaries for unveiling these significant contributions and pieces of thought leadership on India's maritime sector today at India Maritime Week. Thank you. We will take a short break now and then move into a panel discussion in the next 5 minutes. Please do stay in your seats. We request all our guests to please take a seat because we'll be moving into our first panel discussion on leveraging India's strategic advantage to capitalize on green shipping corridor opportunities. Oh, they're coming up? Okay, come on. May I invite our esteemed panelists to please join us on stage. Today, we're delighted to have Ms. Joanna Christensen, CEO of the Global Maritime Forum, convening public-private action for net zero shipping. Welcome. We also have Ms. Denise Kerder-True, Managing Director, Asia, Middle East, and Africa, Spitzer Group, leading operational decarbonization across ports. We also have joining us Mr. Srivatsan Iyer, Global CEO, Hero Future Energies, advancing renewable energy integration for maritime applications. We also have Mr. Loftur Thorensen, Head New Energies of Mitsui OSK Lines, developing low-carbon fuel pathways for shipping. And finally, we have Ms. Annette Hulte, Country Manager, India, Kongsberg Maritime, enabling advanced marine technologies for greener operations. We're also delighted to welcome Mr. Ashil Sobri, Business Development Lead, Indian Subcontinent, Port of Antwerp Burgess International, fostering global partnership and innovation. And moderator for this discussion is Mr. Aparajit Pandey, Director, Global Shipping at RMI. Over to you, Aparajit, to begin this session.
Thank you very much. It's been an eventful morning, but I think it's going to be fun to get into the content. First, could I ask everyone to just please take a seat and we can get into the panel? So, we're here to discuss India's aspirations for being a global maritime power, and one of the ways to do that is through green corridors. Let me start off with Johanna. Johanna, you are the CEO of the Global Maritime Forum, which is the leading organization for shipping decarbonization, and was in many ways the originator of the green corridors concept. In addition to that, through the Getting to Zero Coalition, you've done a number of green corridors. So within that context, as we're seeing green corridors emerge across diverse geographies, what role can India play in driving global collaboration and policy alignment for zero-emission shipping?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What can India do? Well, maybe it's worth it just to preface with a little bit of introduction on green shipping corridors and why they matter in this context. So the reason that we started working on this concept in the first instance is that they're really a great tool and important in the early stages of the green transition, because they enable stakeholders from across the maritime value chain to work together, to share risks, and to work together on overcoming key barriers, and thus moving together towards the deployment of zero-emission solutions ahead of mass market adoption. So we've actually, we do an annual progress report, and one of the things that's really exciting about this is that we've really been able to see the uptake of green corridors over time. So I think it's the 5th progress report that's coming out in a month or so from now, and we've gone from a very small number of projects to over 80 projects in development at this point. Now they're all in varying stages of development and maturity, from studies such as the ones that were launched just before this session to being quite close to real-world deployment, which is really, really exciting. I think for India, one of the things that we're particularly interested in is that India plays a really important role in the nexus between its role in the global economy as a global trading partner and a growing importance in that context, and at the same time also playing this really, really important role as a potential producer of the green fuels for shipping, hydrogen-based fuels. And I'm very honored to be sitting next to you. We'll be talking more about that, I hope, in future, or in this panel. And so from that point of view, it's a really interesting nexus where there's this opportunity to connect a strong vision for maritime that has been articulated here in India, an enormous focus on developing the port ecosystems to support not only economic growth, but also green growth.
Thanks, Johanna. And I think fortuitously, perhaps let's move to Sri, who is the global CEO of Futures Energy. Heroes Future Energy is a renewable energy developer with a portfolio of 7.2 gigawatts of renewable. And Hero Future Energy has just entered into the green hydrogen space. So the question for you, Sri, is what role do fuel producers play in shaping green shipping corridors? And how do you see this influencing the future of the green hydrogen and derivatives market?
Yeah, first, thanks for calling us to be on this panel. I think Johanna mentioned a couple of very interesting things, and I'd like to pick up from there. Historically, shipping has been centered around trade routes and what I call historical bunkering locations for fuel reasons, right? Rotterdam, Houston, Singapore. I think that concept A has to be rethought in the world of zero carbon fuels, where we may no longer need 3 major global bunkering hubs, but you've got to think about bunkering hubs being based on where the source of the green fuel is. Consider making green fuel in India, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Moving it from here to Singapore or here to Rotterdam, all it does is add cost and add the CO2 footprint, right? So we have to just rethink. And fortunately, India is in a position where it does sit on major trade routes anyway. So it's not a question of shipping lines having to reroute their fleet in order to bunker green fuels. So that's one. The second is, if you were to look at how the world could transition to clean fuels, there's really 4 key stakeholders here. They're the shipping lines, who have to obviously source the green fuel. There's the fuel producers. There's the port authorities, who have to enable the infrastructure of storage and bunkering. And then there's the private companies, obviously, that have to enable the bunkering and the storage. Underpinning all of that is global regulatory certainty, which we were hoping would have gotten done last week, but I guess we have another year to wait for that. So we are sitting in a situation where it's a chicken and egg situation, right? Everybody is waiting to get certainty before they sign up for something, and nobody's really willing to invest till there's a sense of certainty. Even if there were regulatory certainty, I think the world needs to rethink how commercial arrangements happen. Global shipping companies have been comfortable sourcing on an index-based bunker fuel for a year at a time. E-fuels carry with them fairly significant technology risk at this point, right? Maybe 10 years from now, e-fuels can also be marked off a global index and sold on an index. Today, it cannot. Financiers who are going to support building e-fuels are going to look for a sense of certainty in terms of volume offtake and pricing. And so there's this, what I call vertical market disconnect between shipping companies who say, I'm willing to talk to you for 1 year on a bunker fuel pricing, and fuel producers who sit and say, but I need to finance this project, so I need a 10-year offtake at a fixed pricing. So we are a critical part of the ecosystem. We have to circumvent this chicken and egg situation and get all of these 4 stakeholders to sit together and say, at some point, risk has to be shared. And at this point, I'm going to bring the 5th stakeholder that we seldom talk about. These are the people who actually ship their products around the world. And how do we get them as part of the conversation to share in the value chain risk and return, and to enable that to happen? And a critical part of that is the fuel producers sitting at the table and having these discussions today, rather than everybody have the discussions and then say, hey, you guys, why don't you supply the fuels that the world needs? So I really look forward to, I think, the world moving in that direction over the next 12 months while the IMO continues its deliberations.
Yeah, we can all hope for the IMO to provide us with more regulatory certainty in the next year or so. Speaking of some of the stakeholders that you mentioned, we do have Lofter from MOL, which is, I think, we can safely say one of the most progressive ship owners and operators in the world in terms of their decarbonization mission. Lofter, how is MOL approaching the development of green shipping corridors that connect India to global trade routes? And is there anything that you can speak about from the experience that MOL has with other green shipping corridors?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me, and congratulations on the reports as well. So MOL, we are a Japan headquartered shipping company and operate approximately 900 vessels globally. We are very keen to understand what's going to go on in the supply of clean fuels globally. What we look at when we make decisions regarding corridors is the availability of the fuels in the places where we require it. So from kind of the ship owner's point of view, it's pretty interesting and important to understand where the shipping industry does bunkering. So we do currently most of our bunkering in places like Singapore and Rotterdam as well. And when it comes to India, the view that we have on India is that India is at least a natural partner for Singapore, just in terms of the supply of green fuels into Singapore due to geographical proximity. So I personally am very bullish and very optimistic that regardless of what happened with IMO a couple of weeks ago, that the kind of pathway and direction as for India as a supplier of green fuels into Singapore at least is highly attractive. And now I'm specifically talking about the ammonia and e-fuels in particular. So we would and we will continue our engagement with fuel producers in India. Some of them are working together also with other companies in Singapore, Rotterdam as well on bunkering trials as well. And we will continue to do what we can to support this ecosystem coming together. Repeating my first comments here, I'm currently based here in India, been here for a while, met with many of the people here in the hall as well, and I'm very excited personally about the great projects that are coming up in the country and look forward to seeing this ecosystem and supply chain coming together. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's going to get there one of these days. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think that the recent auctions and some of the price discovery that's been seen on green ammonia is really heartening, not just for India, but also for the global case for hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives. Turning now to another essential part of the value chain, the OEMs. Annette is joining us from Kongsberg Marine, and Kongsberg works with vessel design, cover everything from hydrodynamics, safety, machinery, electric systems, and you've been working on supply and design engineering for both ammonia and other dual fuel vessels. What is your what do you think are the key barriers for scaling ammonia specifically in developing countries like India? And how do you see the green ammonia trajectory playing out?
Yes, first, thank you for having me. So I think that in Kongsberg Maritime, we see green corridors much than just the routes from A to B. They are ecosystems for collaboration, for trying out new technology, and for learning how to operate differently. So I think it's really important pathways for sustainable shipping because they gives us real-world framework and to test and scale low emission solutions. So at Kongsberg Maritime, one of our main goals is to help our customers through their energy transition. So we don't dictate wherever they should go, if it's methanol, ammonia, or instead we give them flexible, future-ready technology so they can choose what fits their operations and their long-term strategy. So and our dual fuel systems makes this possible. It allows the vessel to run on conventional marine fuels as today and easily switch over to LNG, ammonia, methanol, or whatever is available. And I think that kind of future-proofing also helps the ship owners stay ahead of the changing regulations and fuel trends while managing the long-term risk. So I think we have orders for both the methanol and ammonia, as you say. And I think methanol is leading just as we're speaking. But with the green ammonia production expected to grow in India, we think that ammonia designs are becoming really relevant for this region. So, but if we see that we have just launched a new methanol-ready vessel from Cochin Shipyard just 10 days back. It is our ship design with integrated technology, methanol-ready, highly efficient, and designed for lower emissions. And I think that's also exactly those kinds of vessels we need to support in the next generation of the green shipping corridors. So, but I just also wanted to give some examples of green corridors in Norway, because it's always good to see and look to what other countries do. So I think Norway gives some great examples of how innovation, regulations, and industry collaboration can come together and work together with green corridors. In Norway, you have a short, in the Oslo Fjord, you have a fully battery electric ferry. It's the largest electrical ferry of its kind. And it cuts thousands of CO2 emissions every year. And it forms a part of a green corridor between Moss and Horten. And it's a perfect example to show how short sea shipping and short sea routes can become test beds for zero emission technology. And also in the same route, we have one vessel, or two vessels actually, ASCO Maritime, built at Cochin Shipyard. They are autonomous electrical barges, also crossing the Oslo Fjord, and they operate together with this battery electric ferry and form like a living laboratory for sustainable shipping and combining battery electric propulsion, autonomy, and advanced digital control systems. And adding to that, there's also one world-famous vessel. It's Yara Birkeland. It's also the world's first fully electrical, autonomous cargo vessel. And so this combines the ecosystem and a green corridor. And I think it really shows that technology, autonomy, and data-driven operations can go together with clean fuels to create scalable, safe, and commercial viable solutions. So I think this is also where India has an advantage, not just with its shipbuilding strengths and a new renewable energy potential, but also with its world-class digital software capabilities. And this combination could make India as a leader in building smarter, connected, and sustainable shipping corridors.
Thank you, Annette. Yeah, I think that one of the things that sometimes gets lost in the conversation around the fuels aspect is electrification. And clearly there's a role for electrification in short sea vessels. And a company that has been able to show what can be done with some of these short sea vessels is Switzer, which has launched its Eco Tow initiative for low carbon towage and has switched its entire fleet in London, Felixstowe, and Southampton to low carbon biofuels. So clearly you have some experience in being able to do this, Denise. Could you give us some lessons on what is how to facilitate the coordination between ports, ship operators, and fuel suppliers? What kind of partnerships has Switzer found to be most effective in its operations?
Thank you, Operator. It's a real pleasure to be here at India Maritime Week, and particularly in this panel with my esteemed panel speakers. At Switzer, we have been providing safety and support at sea for nearly 200 years. Today, we are a leader in marine services, serving more than 2,000 customers across 37 countries. We operate a fleet of more than 450 vessels, and most importantly, have over 4,000 dedicated colleagues. Towage is an integral part of global logistics chain, and without it, much of global trade would simply stall. If you think about the green corridors, it's also a critical enabler for the first and last leg of the green corridor of the vessel's journey. My fellow speakers already mentioned this green corridor concept as a mini ecosystem of partnership brings together bold vision that also exists here in India with policy, with commitment and innovation, and show the rest of the world how it's really, really done. So at Switzer, when we think about decarbonization, we focus 3 different areas: behavior, equipment, and fuel. And all of these require strong partnerships, partnering with our stakeholders and the port communities and ecosystem participants today, and also collaborating new partnerships, finding those people who are bringing new things into the maritime sphere. We look for immediate impact in the short term. We also look for data-driven and innovative solutions for future-proofing our maritime industry. As Aparajit mentioned, we have already started this using biofuels. Today, across multiple ports in the UK, in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, in Sohar, in Oman, we use biofuels on our tugs. So how does this come together? What sort of partnership makes this happen? First of all, the technical, the operational bits needs to come together. As Annette also mentioned, the main engine manufacturers are super critical in ensuring those drop-in fuels, the biofuels available today, can work on the existing main engines. And they can do so reliably and safely. Then we also work with equipment manufacturers, battery manufacturers, vessel designers to design the tug of the future, and also think about what we can do about the assets, the existing 450 assets we have today. It doesn't stop there. Of course, we need to look into fuel suppliers. And when it comes to fuel supply, it's both the quantity and the quality that needs to be in place. We have struggled in some places to find that quantity, but through partnerships, we managed to ensure that that continuous supply is there. And of course, class societies are critical in bringing all of these operational solutions together. The beauty is that many of our partners are also global. So one solution means it's actually more than some of its parts. So one location, one engine, one fuel type, one blend means that this can be replicated across the world. And again, the Green Corridor concept, whatever we do in India, it can be replicated other places. Now the operational solution is in place. How can we work to make sure commercially viable? And this is where we bring in the port authorities and the ship operators. We applaud the ship operators like MOL that are already at the forefront of this transition. They are going beyond the regulatory measurements. While that is great, where we see the immediate and broader impact is when port authorities come into play, because they have the ability to change and transform the entire port ecosystem. So where we see the port authorities also backed by a bold country mission and a vision, this is where we see the biggest change. So all in all, for green corridors, we need all of these ingredients to come together. And what's more important is these partnerships should not be few and should not be just business to business. Our people, the 4,000 people that I spoke about, every day, together with pilots in the ports, with vessel traffic schedulers, they can make an impact on how we reduce emissions. So they can decide how fast we sail as tugs, how we mobilize, demobilize. They can use data to ensure that that collaboration leads to immediate impact. So all of these coming together will be super critical partnerships for the green corridors. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. You mentioned port authorities as being a key to this transition. Let me turn now to Mr. Achille Sobri, who is representing from Port of Antwerp-Bruges International. Port of Antwerp-Bruges has been at the forefront of green shipping corridors, has initiated corridors with Montreal, Houston, Gothenburg, and also potentially ASU, previewing something that might be coming next week.
Hello?
What?
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct. Porto do Açu, yes.
Which is another collaboration with the Global Maritime Forum and ourselves, along with the Port of Antwerp. So just, sorry, small little plug. But given Antwerp-Bruges' leadership in developing hydrogen-ready port infrastructure and participating in these green corridors, what lessons can Indian ports draw from the European experience to accelerate their readiness to be able to take forward green shipping corridors and to provide clean fuel bunkering?
Thank you, Aparajit. Well, lessons always sounds a bit directive, so let's say that we have developed, let's call it a strategy for ourselves on how to combat these challenges. And we have a sort of quote that we call "Dare to Pioneer." So we kind of took the leading role in defining which bunker fuels would be perfect for the green transition. And so last year we've welcomed our first, or then the first hydrogen-powered tugboat in Antwerp. And since then we have added a tugboat on electricity and also on methanol. So we dare to take chances. We don't know which fuel will be the most efficient. It was already mentioned here, cost efficiency is also very important. But we dare to take that role. We dare to take the leap. And we'll see where we end up. But at least that gives us, or that gives our port community, the partners that we have within the port, some guidance on where we want to go as a port authority. Second of all, and I think it has been mentioned here as well, is partnerships. So not only partnerships within the port community at Port of Antwerp-Bruges, where we have over 1,400 companies active, across 1,000 concessions. We see ourselves as a community builder, and we bring those companies together to combat challenges that we are all facing. And I think it's important that we have a body that helps the independent companies to come together and see how we can operate and come to solutions for these challenges. I think Svitzer is also active, Rotterdam, of course, but I think also in Antwerp. We know people from Mol as well. So for us, it's important to bring all those people together as a port community to come to solutions to all these global challenges. And then we even take it a step further. Instead of focusing purely on the platforms in Antwerp-Bruges, we also do it internationally. And that's where our company, Port of Antwerp-Bruges International, comes in. We are the investment and advisory arm of the Port Authority of Antwerp-Bruges, mainly focusing, actually purely focusing on global port development. And Aparajit, you already mentioned Porto do Açu. Also, you mentioned, ma'am, Port of Sohar. We're also active in Oman and Port of Duqm. Those ports will become hydrogen-producing hubs. For us, we have invested in those port authorities, so we can lead the production of hydrogen there through the concessionaires. And the idea is actually to produce green hydrogen over there, liquefy it, transport it to Europe, actually to Port of Zeebrugge, to the Fluxys terminal in Zeebrugge, regasify it, and then via pipeline it can go into the petrochemical cluster in Antwerp, and even further down to the industrial heartland of Germany and France. So that's our strategy. Next to that, we also have the port of Walvis Bay in Namibia, where we have invested together with CMB Tech. You probably all have heard of CMB Tech. They're also a pioneer, so we like to work together with pioneers to do the same thing. And then, of course, from a port authority standpoint, we mainly focus on the infrastructure, right? So the terminals, the pipelines, the common user infrastructure, and again, bringing all those stakeholders together to ensure that we create an ecosystem. And then the last, let's call it lesson, or the last thing that we do is knowledge sharing. Port of Antwerp-Bruges International has a sister company. It's called APEC, and we organize various port-related courses, training courses, now focusing mainly, not mainly, but focusing strongly on energy transition and sustainability. And we bring actually port officials from all over the world to Antwerp to see how our concessionaires are working on all of these challenges and how we, as a port authority, can help them to do the same thing in their country. And we're actually doing it here in Mumbai as well, through the JMPA APEC training center at JMPA, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority, where we organize similar port courses. This year we had the first energy transition course. We had over 44 participants from all major ports, Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways, but also the concessionaires in JMPA. So we do feel there's a lot of traction for these courses, so we'll probably do more of those next year. So I highly recommend everybody to come to either Antwerp or JMPA to see how we do this. Thank you.
Excellent. We have a little bit of time. I'm going to do some rapid fire questions. Maybe if you could keep your answers to about a minute and a half or so. Let me start off with you, Johanna. You were with the IMO Secretary General the past week. What is your read on the way the regulatory space is going to play out in the next year or so?
I hesitate to hold a crystal ball, but I think there's two opportunities. So first of all, as you said, it was very disappointing that the net zero framework was not adopted at the IMO 2 weeks ago, but rather delayed. But it also buys us time to explore the opportunity of forming new types of coalitions that can work together towards a global regulatory framework, because this is really what the broader maritime ecosystem, the shipping industry, et cetera, are all advocating for a global regulatory framework that can support the uptake of green fuels and help close the cost gap, and especially also support first movers as well as a just transition. So that's the one opportunity. I think the other opportunity that exists, and frankly we need it irrespective of whether we have a global framework or not, is we need more national and regional action. So there's a huge opportunity for support at the national level or at a regional level, frankly sometimes even at a local level. So there are examples. I think Port of Antwerp has some of this already, incentive schemes, various demand aggregation schemes, support schemes that can help secure uptake of these fuels and really help take us from concept pilots to a liquid market, to the one that you were discussing earlier, that's so far right now into the future.
Thanks, Johanna. And I know that there's at least some states and ports, even in the U.S., that are thinking about some of these incentives, specifically within the Pacific Northwest. So I think it can be both at a regional level, national, as you said, and then even at a state level. This next question is for both Shri and Lofter. There was something that was really interesting that was mentioned, and it's something that we hear a lot when we're talking to industry as part of our green shipping corridors work. Shri, you said that you needed a 10-year offtake while ship owners and operators are operating in a much more liquid market. So for both of you, what are some instruments that could potentially bridge that? And I know that my good friend Max from H2 Global is going to be here in the next panel. So is that potentially a mechanism that could be helpful in bridging this offtake issue?
I'd love to follow him because I want to hear what he says first.
This is on, right? Yeah. We are fully aware that there's a mismatch, basically, on how fuel producers want to do things. They want long-term agreements, and how we are used to doing things, which are short-term agreements. One way of solving this is, of course, using like H2 Global or kind of government or semi-government style organizations to solve for this. But maybe a slightly simpler option is just to use aggregators or trading companies that would take the long-term risk and then sell it onwards to companies like ourselves. We buy our fuels usually on relatively short-term contracts from reputable bunkering companies, but some of these companies buy their fuel on longer contracts. And I don't see any fundamental reason why this can't be the same way in the clean fuels industry. It's just a question of the portfolio players that supply fuels to find enough demand, and then I think the pieces will fall together. To make a long story short, there are solutions that don't have to be overly complicated for this problem.
Yeah, I think I agree that H2 Global obviously is a very valuable mechanism, and I fully agree with what he said. If there's intermediate players who have a stronger balance sheet, who can take that on their balance sheet, but who also have other products that help offset that in their portfolio, through a basis risk, that would be really helpful. On an additional note here, I think part of, and we discussed this before we got here today, is part of what the entire industry is waiting on, both the shipping companies as well as fuel producers, is what are the global standards going to look like? Because they impact the economics of production. We all know e-fuels have a lower energy density and therefore going to have a different cost basis. But that cost basis could vary fairly significantly based on what are the standards that are going to be adopted in terms of definition. Are 1G fuels going to be included? Are 2G going to be included? Is it hourly correlation? Is it, monthly correlation? Is it a single grid? Et cetera, et cetera. All of those details, the devil lies right there. And the economics could be hugely impacted by those. And that's a significant barrier to shipping companies and fuel producers getting together and agreeing on, some commercial terms.
Thank you both. You mentioned demand aggregation, Lothar, and Johanna, you mentioned that as, I think, a potential opportunity as well. Ashil, curious, is this something that you think port authorities can either do or potentially facilitate in terms of the demand aggregation for fuels?
In the sense for production in the port, or how would you?
The aggregation, sending a strong signal to be able to get in the aggregation.
Yeah. You mean like clustering, for example?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think it all starts with having an enabler, having a company that is taking the lead, especially when it comes to green molecules. We have seen the same thing in Antwerp with BASF, and the whole petrochemical cluster follows. I think it depends. Again, from a port authority standpoint, we are a landlord, so that means we govern the land, and we give the parts of that land into concession. And you can, of course, in your qualifications, look for companies, and it's something that we do, to see how they can link to other companies, so creating a cluster yourselves. I think that is the sort of aggregation you could go for. I'm not an expert when it comes to production of energy or green energy green molecules, but I believe that has helped us, Port of Antwerp Bruges, to become the port that we are, and to remain the port that we are, and also to become even bigger in the future. So I believe from that standpoint, you have the right tools to engage with the right people and bring them together.
Excellent. And I think we're getting close to lunchtime, so we are going to have a couple of more questions and then come to a conclusion. Let me ask, Annette, often OEMs are sort of thought of as kind of waiting on the signals from the rest of the value chain, but what do you think that OEMs could do to try to accelerate the transition ahead of perhaps some of the signals, if anything?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think for us, again, our strategy is to be our customers' energy transition partners. So our equipment is ready, as I said, for any type of fuel. So, but of course, from our side, it's to support our customers, do simulations, make sure that they also do the correct choices, because it's of course a higher cost up front, and then also of course they should have some financial incentives to invest in this up front. So I think the front runners should be they should get some incentives. So also they could show that this is viable for the ones coming after. So I think from our side, it's not an easy answer, but we will be there together with our customers and supporting them, and our equipment is ready for any kinds of fuel.
Excellent, thank you. Denise, I think, unfortunately, I've saved the hardest question for you. Let's say you've got a magic wand and you can make one thing change within the overall ecosystem to really accelerate your fleet's decarbonization. What is that one thing? Sorry.
I really got the trick question. Yeah. I would actually bounce it back. I don't think there is one thing. If we wait for one silver thing to happen to decarbonize, I think we will be waiting for a long time. I think the key for us is to engage everyone, literally everyone. Everyone who can contribute to innovation, digital, fuel supply, and in terms of moving e-fuels from one location to another, creating these ecosystems of green corridors, I think there is no one thing. And that's why I would also say I'm actually still optimistic, no matter what happened at IMO, because I see all of us here, all of you sitting here, very, very encouraging with all the initiatives, all the efforts that are put in. India as a country has this incredible vision to contribute and create something magical here that could be replicable everywhere around the world. So I would say there is no one thing. We will do all our bits. Thank you.
That's an excellent answer. So given what you've just said, we've got, I think, all the elements of the green shipping corridor that are needed right here. We've got the port, we've got the ship owners and operators, we've got the fuel producers, we've got the OEMs, and potentially some facilitators. So I would say that if we need to be all doing more to try to accelerate this, this journey, then it's on us to try to move that forward. And hopefully we'll be able to do that over the next couple of years while we're waiting on regulatory certainty to return. Thank you so much to all of you for your time, for your patience, for being here with us and giving some really thoughtful, nuanced answers. I want to throw it open if there's any last words from anyone. If not, then I will let everyone get some lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you to our guests for joining us today. We do have a token of appreciation that we would like to give to all of you for your time. So I would request, Aparajit, we will have some mementos to please distribute to all our panelists. And may I please invite Mr. Souvik Bhattacharya, Associate Director and Fellow with NCOE GPS, to present a memento to Mr. Aparajit Pandey. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your kind attention. We will now take a break for lunch, and we will reconvene here at 2 p.m. for the afternoon's discussions and panel sessions. Enjoy, and see you back here in about 40 minutes. Thank you.